and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman and resident mermaid. Or so I'm saying, because we're kind of diving in on mermaids today with this author conversation. Zoraida Córdova, her most recent release is Kiss the Girl, which she wrote by herself. And then she's also the editor and got a little short story in Mermaids Never Drown. So we got double dose of mermaids from Zoraida. And so we're talking about why this mythological creature is so important to her and what's coming next, and there's a lot. Plus why she decided to start podcasting. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Zoraida Córdova. Your new book.
Yes.
Well, actually your two newest books.
I have two new books.
And they're both kind of dealing with mermaids.
Yes.
What is it about mermaids that you love so much?
You know, when I was a kid, I tell people, like, my first memory of mermaids was The Little Mermaid. It was when I was 3, living in Ecuador, my grandmother sent me a VHS of Disney's The Little Mermaid, and so I watched it on repeat. So by the time we immigrated to New York, I already knew how to speak English, but it was just part of your world lyrics. And so I've always had this fascination with mer people. I read a book in high school called Serena by Donna Jo Napoli, and that really sparked my obsession with, like, mermaids and mermaid anatomy. And then my debut novel was called The Vicious Deep. It's out of print, so you can't find it. But it was about a teenage merman, because it's always been in the back of my mind. It's my favorite mythological creature. And so Mermaids Never Drown is an anthology, which is a companion to Vampires Never Get Old. And we just invited a bunch of writers that we love to write short stories about mermaids from their background or similar, like, sexual identity, and or like a mythology that they've always wanted to play around with. So that's one. And then there's Kiss the Girl, which is a Little Mermaid retelling, just without the magic. The magic is romance, of course.
Love is magic.
And the magical creature is a romance hero. But so that's basically those two books, my obsession with mermaids, summed up.
So tell us a little bit more about Kiss the Girl, because this is, like, what can we expect from this story?
So Kiss the Girl is, for me, it's very faithfully a retelling of Disney's The Little Mermaid. Obviously, the Hans Christian Andersen original is just so sad.
Those originals are dark.
They're dark, they're tragic, because, you know, fairy tales are a warning. They're a warning for women, you know, don't go into the woods at night. Don't give away your heart to a stranger. Kiss the Girl follows Ariel, who is a singer. She's like, for me, I pitch this book as like Spice World or Hannah Montana meets The Little Mermaid, because it's Ariel and her sisters have this pop group. They're like #1 in the world, like, you know, 7 Beyoncés, and they Ariel wants more. She wants a normal life. She just wants to be an ordinary girl, and her sisters are like, we are ordinary girls. We're just, you know, famous pop stars. But for her, she's always felt like outside of her family. And so she runs away after meeting a very handsome, up-and-coming musician named Eric Reyes, and runs away with him on his tour, his first ever national tour. And so she gets to experience the musical world, but from as just a regular girl. She's the merch vendor for the band, and so she becomes an integral part of their circle. I have like all these nods of the original movie in the book, because it was really important to me to have all those Easter eggs. Also, Disney really wanted it.
I mean, it was Disney involved, so...
Well, yeah, it's an official Disney book, right? So, they were, when I turned it in, they were like, more Easter eggs. And I was like, are you sure? All right, fine. But, you know, some people love them, some people don't. I love them, so that's all that matters.
Exactly.
It's my book.
It's your baby. You get to do what you want.
Exactly.
And you did kind of mix in some Latina culture with this a little bit.
Well, yeah, so I made Ariel and her family, they're Ecuadorian, like me. Eric is Colombian. and I sort of pictured him like one of my favorite singers, Maluma, who is a Colombian pop star, and so I like the way that he looks and sings, and like, you know, is very handsome.
When you were approaching this Little Mermaid kind of retelling, did you like go watch the movies again? How did you decide what aspects that you wanted to pull into this story?
Well, I started by reading the first 2 books in the series. You don't have to read them in order at all. They're complete standalones. They're just part of the same Disney series, Disney princesses as real girls, real women. And so I read the first 2 books to see sort of like how the authors, Julie Murphy and Jasmine Guillory, how they had approached their retellings. And of course I could never do what they do, and they can't do what I do, you know, because everybody has such a unique voice and style. And so what ended up happening was I read those to familiarize myself with the tone of the series. And then at the end of the day, I still have to do what feels natural and right to me. Then I created an outline, which I pitched this book to Disney. And I was like, it has to be music. It has to be this pop star world, celebrity romance. And I didn't rewatch the movie until I started editing it. Because the movie is already like part of my creative DNA. You know, like I feel like everybody has their creative DNA, like the things that made you as a writer, as a creator. And so for me, The Little Mermaid is really high up there already. So I just watched it to watch it, not for any sort of like plot device or like, don't forget to put a fork in the book, you know. And also the music is just, Alan Menken is just such a creative genius. So I would put it on in the background as like to hear the music.
How did you get involved in doing stuff with Disney and IP work?
With Disney specifically, with this series, I saw that the series was happening, and I asked my agent to ask if they are still looking for authors for subsequent books. And I think that's what you just have to do. Like I feel like some people, you know, go on Twitter and are like, somebody give me a Marvel book, and maybe Marvel will be like, sure. But for me, it's more of like, you just have to be a little bit proactive. Like if you have an agent and your agent can reach out to an editor at a company, although I would really love to write like a Wednesday retelling, but I don't know who owns the IP to that.
Hello out there, internet.
Hello. And so like, you know, those are the other ways, those are some ways that you can shout into the Twitter void or X void, and be like, I love this thing. I would love to be part of this world. No pun intended.
But kind of intended.
No, I can't help it.
It just comes naturally.
Yeah. Or you could have your agent or representative go and ask for you. And I've done both.
With Mermaids Never Drown, you were also one of the editors on this project.
Yes.
What did you learn from editing other writers' work that has helped you to become a better writer?
I learned that all writers have quirks. And the biggest challenge between a first draft and a finished draft is communication. So it's communication with your editor, with your agent, and communication with your reader, right? Because if your reader's confused, the story's gone, like you've lost them. And one of like Kurt Vonnegut's principles of writing or lessons in writing that I always carry with me is like, your reader should never be confused walking into your story. And so I learned as an editor, if I don't understand something in a short story in one of my authors, it's because it's clear to them, but it's not clear to me. And so it's not that it has to change, we just have to get to that clarity. And so that lesson I need to take into my own writing, because I used to get frustrated. Oh, like this editor doesn't understand me. The copy editor thinks I'm dumb. But it's really that I haven't communicated this thing. And so we have to clear up that confusion with an edit. And so that has been my biggest takeaway. Also, you know, writers, our words are important to us. And so it's, even when it's your friend like me, who's known you for like a few years, like going into and like tinkering with your words, like somebody could take offense to that. And so thankfully we had, it was just really wonderful working with authors that I really respect, and who just did such an incredible job and knocked them out of the park. Every story feels like only this person could have written it. And that's why I think it's such a brilliant collection, which I'm biased, but.
Do you have a favorite other than your own from this collection?
Well, I mean, look, I won't say mine and Natalie. I co-wrote with my co-editor, Natalie C. Parker. But I wouldn't say mine is my favorite. I think that I have several favorites. I think every story does something different. Julie C. Dow's, just for her beautiful line level, she has incredible, the way she writes is just so lush. Which I would say the same thing for Rebecca Coffindaffer. Their story, which opens up the anthology, it's like a haunting fairy tale. Julian Winters, if you want to smile the entire time because it's so sweet, it's a contemporary fantasy romance, inspired by Splash, the movie. That one really just, every time I've read it, I couldn't help but smile. Adriana's story is just so romantic and inspired by the Dominican Republic, where she's from and born and raised. And so I really love how every story feels different and like only that author could have written it.
And you also write under Zoe Castile. Talk a little bit about the decision to switch and use a different name under that.
The decision to use a different name is because, for two reasons. One, I had a contract under where my next book had to be turned in as Zoraida Córdova, right? And so it was like a publishing loophole, which not all publishers like, but I wanted to write something simultaneously. And so we created a pen name because Zoraida Córdova was busy, and Zoe Castile was not. And so we ended up selling this trilogy of romance novels. But it really isn't, and I also it really is to keep those names separate. I intentionally wanted to have a closed pen name, but it ended up not working out because publishers want you to be you, and that's totally fine because I really love having, like, Zoe Castile has more high heat content and romance content, all romance, and Zoraida Córdova is more like YA, middle grade, Star Wars, like literary fiction, fantasy, and so it's like brand delineation.
And you've got a third pen name that you're going to be doing some stuff with.
I do have a third pen name, which my agent was like, okay, let's not do 3 pen names. Let's only do 2. I'm going to absorb the third one into Zoe Castile. I already have a book published under it, but it'll come soon. But
So we got a little bit of a scoop. Keep an eye out for Zoe Castile absorbing something else. Okay, so shenanigans are afoot. So you do a lot of IP work. How did you get into that?
There are several ways to get into IP. With Star Wars, it was different because I tweeted something like really crass, like, I would like to write a book. My dream book is writing about Poe Dameron fucking his way around the galaxy. And I thought nobody would see it because I'm like, I just tweet by myself. Nobody paid attention to me. And then the next day I get an email from an editor at Del Rey to my agent being like, hey, I heard Zoraida likes Star Wars. Do you think she'd want to write for this and charity anthology that we're doing for the 40th anniversary? I deleted my Twitter, so you can't find that tweet anymore.
As a lot of people have done.
So they approached us, and I didn't know at the time that we could have approached Star Wars. So, if you want IP, you pitch the property owner, and that's a great thing about having, like, working with your agent is, like, you tell your agent, like, my dream thing is I want to write for Star Trek or Marvel, and so they'll go to Star Trek and Marvel and be like, hey, do you need an author? Here's my author's body of work and why they would be perfect for it. I have auditioned for a lot of IP. I auditioned for Magic Mike IP, which I did not get. I auditioned for a Jane the Virgin IP, which I did not get either.
That would be so good, though.
I know. But yeah, so it's really trial and error.
And Delilah S. Dawson's talked a little bit about like the crash schedule. What was that like for you, balancing the like demands of a Star Wars book?
Crash schedules are really hard. I've only, like, this recent Star Wars novel is not on a crash schedule. It's on a normal schedule because we scheduled it so far in advance. But sometimes when all of a sudden, like, the parks is like, hey, we should have some tie-in books for, the Star Wars world, that one was a crash schedule. I got an editor DM'd me and was like, can you write a book in a month? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yes, I can. I've done it before. And so I remember writing that book, and I got the worst heart palpitations because I drank coffee for like a straight month, and I would drink like 7 cups of coffee. And so by the end of that, I was like, I couldn't drink coffee for 6 months.
Caffeine struggle is so real. You've also got a podcast. So kind of talk about what your podcast is and why this topic that you discuss is so important.
So the podcast I do is called Deadline City. It's co-hosted with Danielle Clayton. And we just really were frustrated with misinformation on Twitter about the publishing industry. And so we decided, hey, we're going to pull back the curtain and just talk about our experience. Because often you don't know what to do. Sometimes you don't know what to do with contracts, and some authors really, really don't like asking their agents because they're shy or they think they're bothering them. And at the end of the day, like, this is your business partner. They get 15% standard of what you do. So yeah, you should tell your concerns, your anxieties, everything. Like, even I, to this day, like, still suffer from like, oh, I don't want to bother her, but actually she needs to know this. So here's just an email. And so those relationships, like things like negotiating contracts, what to know how to ask for. We just really wanted to make sure that authors like felt empowered. And I've had people, even this time last year, I had an author was like, thank you for Deadline City. Listening to it helped me specifically negotiate a contract with one of my ex-publishers. And I was like, that's phenomenal. And so that feels really good. It's like,
yeah, it's so needed. And like, there's so much misinformation. There's so much that is secretive in the industry that people don't really understand. So putting it out there is so important for people who have that dream of being a published author someday.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Next for me is I have Star Wars Middle Grade, which comes out July 2024. Fairies Never Lie, the next anthology in the Untold Legend series. It has some amazing authors, and that comes out fall 2024. We don't have a date yet, but we will soon. We have a cover, and it's great. Ooh. It's so creepy. I'll show it to you. And then I have Fall of the Rebel Angels, which is a contemporary adult fantasy, exactly what the title suggests, about the fall of rebel angels. And I really love this book. It's a very ambitious book, and I hope that I can pull it off.
The last question we always ask, because this is Literary Hype, what books are you hyped about right now?
Oh, man.
That is the response every time. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Seriously. I'm really excited for people to be able to read The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, because it is masterful. It is like a beautiful book. I felt like Leigh really dug into something ancestral in this book, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous novel.
Oh, I can't wait to get my hands on that. I need it now. Thank you so much for taking time here at YALLFEST to talk about your books.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again to Zoraida for hanging out with me at YALLFEST 2023, as well as being part of 2 panels that I got to moderate at New York Comic Con. And you really should check out the Battle of the Tropes panel, because it is chef's kiss. It is gold. That lineup was so fantastic. So definitely check out that video for a good laugh. Not exactly for the young ears, but it's a really good laugh. If you want to check out Zoraida's books, which you should, Kiss the Girl, Mermaids Never Drown, her Star Wars books, her other works. She's got a lot of books to choose from. Those links are down below in the description, as well as where to find her on social media. And if you're trying to find people to follow on social media, my links are down there as well. Don't forget to hit the like button on this video if you enjoyed this conversation, and subscribe to the Literary Hype channel for more author chats like this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.